Okay, example 1. Write trigonometric ratios for angles in any quadrant. The point P, negative 815, lies on the terminal arm of an angle theta in standard position. Determine the exact trigonometric ratios for sine theta, cos theta, and tan of theta. Okay, so let's start one by drawing a diagram. Okay, of our angle in standard position. So we know that we have a point where x is negative 8 and y is 15, so we'll estimate that it is around here. Okay, so P, negative 8 and 15. We want to draw our angle in standard position, so we will draw in our initial arm, and then we will draw in our terminal arm and make sure it goes through your point P. Give your angle direction, and keep in mind that between the terminal arm and the x-axis we have our reference angle theta subscript r. Okay, so we want to draw in our reference triangle. We're going to drop a line from our point perpendicular to the x-axis. Along the x-axis, the direction we have is negative 8. And along the y direction we have a positive 15. Okay, and before we start determining what our trig ratios are, let's just recall our cast rule. Okay, start in the fourth quadrant and spell out cast going counterclockwise. And just note that when we do finally determine what our trig ratios are, that because we're looking at an angle in the second quadrant, sine is the only trig ratio that will be positive. Okay, the other two will be negative. So when you work out your trig ratios for the angle in standard position that has a point negative 815 on the terminal arm, be sure that sine is positive, cos is negative, and tan is negative. Okay, so our second step. We want to recall our formulas that we derived in our introduction. That sine of theta is y over r, cos of theta is x over r, and tan of theta is y over r. Now, because we already have a point negative 8 and 15, we know that x is equal to negative 8 and y is equal to 15. We don't know the value of r, so that's going to be our next step. We want to find r. So we'll use our Pythagorean theorem, where we know r is equal to x squared plus y squared. Substitute your values in for x and y, and determine the value of r. And you get that r is equal to the square root of 289, which is 17. Okay, so our third step then is to determine the exact trig ratios. Okay, so sine of theta is y over r. So sine of theta is 15 over 17. Cos of theta is x over r. And so cos of theta is equal to negative 8 over r, which is 17. And tan of theta is y over x. So tan of theta is 15 over negative 8. Or if you like, tan of theta is equal to negative 15 over 8. Okay, so using our little formulas here and determining what our sine, cos, and tan ratios are, is sine positive, cos negative, and tan negative. And it's it is, right? If you take a look at sine of theta, it's 15 over 17, that's positive. Cos of theta is negative 8 over 17, that's negative. And tan of theta is negative 15 over 8, which is also negative. Okay, and that concludes example number 1.